Lesson 3. In this lesson, we're going to take up your assignment where you had to find the verbs, the nouns, the adjectives, and the pronouns in those sentences. So I'd like to start lesson 3 by going over that. So turn to that assignment where you are finding those 4 parts of speech. Let's take a look at sentence number 1. A soft answer turneth away wrath. Turneth is a verb. Answer is a noun. Wrath is a noun. The article, is an adjective. Soft is an adjective. And they are both modifying the noun answer. Number 2, the verb give. The noun wisdom. Another noun rod. Reproof is a noun. The article the is an adjective modifying rod. Sentence number 3, the heavens declare the glory of God. Verb declare, it's action. Noun heavens. Noun glory. Noun God, proper noun. The adjective the article, is modifying heavens, and the article the adjective modifying glory. Number 4, the Lord is my light. Verb is a linking verb. Proper noun Lord. Proper noun light. Remember, I had mentioned before, when you use pronouns that refer to God, then we capitalize them. The same with nouns that refer to God or Jesus. We capitalize them. So light is a proper noun. The article the is an adjective modifying Lord, and my is an adjective modifying light. Number 5, my heart shall not fear. Verb, fear. Helping verb, shall. We have shall fear, and there's a word that interrupts it. Not is not a verb. Not is never a verb. So the verb phrase is shall fear. Noun, heart. Adjective my is modifying heart. Sentence number 6. Verb, shall strengthen. We have a verb phrase. Shall is the helping verb. Strengthen is the action verb. Noun, heart. Pronoun, he, personal pronoun. Thine is an adjective describing heart. Number 7, the entrance of thy words giveth light. Verb, giveth, action. Noun, entrance. Noun, words. Noun, light. Pronouns, there aren't any. But adjectives, the is a definite article or indefinite article modifying entrance. Thy is an adjective modifying words. Sentence number 8, my help cometh from the Lord. Cometh is the verb, it's an action verb. Help is a noun. Lord, proper noun. My is an adjective modifying help. The is an adjective, the article, modifying Lord. Sentence 9, the sun shall not smite thee by day. Verb, we have a verb phrase. Did you find all the parts? Shall smite. That's the verb phrase. Smite is the main verb, action. Shall is the helping verb. Noun, sun. Noun, day. The, adjective, article, modifying sun. And there are no more adjectives, but there is a pronoun, and that is thee. Thee and thou are pronouns. Number 10, one generation shall praise thy works to another. Verb, again, we have a verb phrase. Shall praise. Praise is the action verb. Shall is the helping verb. Generation, noun. Adjective, one, is modifying generation. Remember, we talked about questions that adjectives answer. This is a how many. How many generations? One. So one is an adjective. Noun, works. Adjective, thy. Thy is acting as an adjective, modifying works. And we have a pronoun. And the pronoun is another. Remember the list of the indefinite pronouns? And that's one of those indefinite pronouns. Number 11, a great multitude gathered by the seaside. Verb, gathered. Action verb. Noun, multitude. We have two adjectives modifying multitude. Is an adjective modifying multitude. Great is an adjective modifying multitude. Noun, seaside. Seaside is a compound noun. Remember we talked about compound nouns. They can be two separate words or one word. This is two separate words. So seaside is a noun. And when you identify it together. And then the adjective modifying seaside is the article. And number 12, Jesus taught many things by parables. Verb, taught, action verb. Jesus, noun. Things, noun. Many is an adjective modifying things. Parables, noun. And there are no pronouns. Number 13, a sower went forth. Verb, went, action verb. Noun, sower. Adjective, the article, modifying sower. And that's all for number 13. Number 14, some seed fell by the wayside. Verb, fell, action. Seed is a noun. Some is an adjective modifying seed. Wayside, here we have another compound noun. Wayside is a noun, and the is the article modifying wayside. It's an adjective. And number 15, the thorns grew up. The action verb is grew. Thorns is the noun. The article is the adjective modifying thorns. And that's all that there are in number 15. So I trust that you were able to identify those 4 parts of speech that we have had so far. Now in lesson 3, we are going to take a look at 2 more parts of speech. We've looked at the first 4, and if you remember correctly, there are 8 parts of speech. And we're going to take a look at 2 more in lesson number 3. Now, the first one we're going to take a look at is called the adverb. Now, when you think of the adverb, think of it as adding to the verb. Now, the adverb is a word that also modifies. Remember the adjective modifies nouns and pronouns? Well, the adverb is also a modifier. There are 2 parts of speech that modify, and these are the 2, the adjective, and now today we're going to take a look at the adverb. So, an adverb is a word that modifies. Verbs, adjectives, adverbs modifies, verbs, adjectives, or another or other adverbs. And let's just change that so that it's consistent. Another, let's use other. Adverbs modifies verbs, adjectives, or other adverbs. Most often, an adverb will modify a verb. When it's modifying an adjective or another adverb, it's adding emphasis. And when we take a look at some examples, we'll go over that and I'll show you what we mean. Now, when adverbs modify, they are making your writing more interesting. So if you can use adverbs to modify verbs, and it just helps add to the meaning and it helps clarify as well. Now, when an adverb modifies, like the adjective, adverbs also answer questions. They answer how, when, where, how often, and to what extent. And when we look at sentence examples and we look at partial examples, you'll see how they can answer those questions. And as I said before, they will help add variety and interest to your writing. All right, let's take a look, first of all, as an adverb modifying a verb. Let's write down the verb look. Look where? There. Answering the question where. Let's take a look at the verb, and I'll label that as a verb, spoke. Spoke softly. Softly is describing spoke. And what question is it answering? It's answering how. Spoke how? Softly. Work can be used as a verb. All right. Work now. Well, what question does now answer? Now answers when. Work when? Now. All right, let's take a look at the verb sings. And let's add this adverb in front of it. Seldom. Sings. Sings is the verb. Seldom is modifying. What question does it answer? It answers how often. Notice the adverb can follow it, and the adverb can also precede it when it's modifying the verb. And let's see, one more to take in our other question. To what extent? Completed. Completed is the verb. And let's use the adverb partially. And partially is modifying completed, and it answers the question, to what extent. So those are the questions that adverbs can answer. How, when, where, how often, and to what extent. Notice the location. When it's modifying the verb, it can follow it. It can even come before it. Look there, spoke softly. Work now, seldom sings. Partially completed. Most often the adverbs do modify a verb, most of the time. However, they can modify the other parts of speech as well. Now, let's take a look at some sentence examples, because I want to point out, as I said before, the adverb may not necessarily be right beside it, it can be before it or after it. But to add variety in your writing, when an adverb is modifying a verb, you can place it in different positions in the sentence to help add variety in your writing. So let's take a look at some sentence examples that shows that. In the sentence examples on the board, let's find the verbs and the adverbs. Remember, action or linking when we're finding the verbs. Granddad often takes a morning walk. Takes is the verb, and it's an action verb. All right, let's find adverbs. As I said before, adverbs may not be close to the verb that they're describing. So we need to keep in mind the questions: how, when, where, how often, and to what extent. Dad often takes a morning walk. Often is the adverb. Answering the question, to what extent or when. Modifying, takes, often takes. Number 2, the water dripped slowly from the faucet. What is the verb? What is the action? Dripped. All right, let's find the adverb. How, when, where, how often, to what extent. Well, we have one that answers the question how, and that's slowly. Slowly is the adverb, and it's describing dripped. Number 3, anxiously the father of the injured child paced the floor. What's the action in the sentence that the subject of the sentence is performing? The action is paced. Pace is our action verb. Who's doing the pacing? The father. Now, adverbs. How, when, where, how often, to what extent. Well, there is an adverb that's modifying paced. What is it? It's anxiously. Notice the location is at the beginning of the sentence, but it is modifying the verb paced. To what extent paced, or how paced? Anxiously. In this sentence, and I want to point this out to make your writing interesting, notice how anxiously was at the beginning. When an adverb is modifying a verb, it doesn't necessarily have to be in front of it or after it. It can be anywhere in the sentence. And to make this sentence interesting, the author chose to put the adverb at the beginning, anxiously. It kind of adds more emotion to it. The father of the injured child paced the floor. Now, we could move it, and it would still be grammatically correct. We could say, the father of the injured child paced the floor anxiously, and that would also be correct. We could also put it closer to the verb. The father of the injured child paced anxiously the floor. But notice how placing it at the beginning, it just makes the sentence more interesting and also adds a little more intensity to the word anxiously. So adverbs. Adverbs modify verbs, adjectives, or other adverbs. They answer questions how, when, where, how often, to what extent. Now I want to take a look at some examples where the adverb is modifying the adjective and also another adverb. And as I said earlier, when it does that, then it's adding a little more emphasis to that adjective or to that adverb. In the sentences on the chalkboard, we're going to take a look at some adverbs that are modifying either an adjective or another adverb. But keep in mind the questions. Most often, when it's adding emphasis by modifying an adjective or an adverb, it'll answer the question, to what extent, or maybe how often. All right, number 1, grandmother makes especially good pickles. Let's find the verb, makes, and it's an action verb. As I said, always find the verb, it's a good place to start, and then just go from there. Now, when an adverb is modifying an adjective or another adverb, it's adding emphasis to that adjective, or it's adding emphasis to that adverb. And sometimes these are a little harder to find. So let's back up and let's take a look at some nouns in our sentence. Number 1, grandmother is a noun. Pickles is a noun. All right. What are the adjectives modifying the nouns? Well, grandmother doesn't have an adjective, but pickles has an adjective. Good is modifying pickles. What kind of pickles? Good pickles. Now, we have the word especially, and especially is adding emphasis to the word good. Especially good pickles. So therefore, we have an adverb, especially, modifying the adjective good. And in this example, you'll notice that especially is adding emphasis to the adjective good. So when that happens, the adverb will precede the adjective that it's adding emphasis to. Now, we can leave out the adverb and we still have a good sentence. Grandmother makes good pickles. But the writer wanted to put emphasis on that, so they used the adverb especially to modify good. Grandmother makes especially good pickles. So the adverb, when it's adding emphasis to an adjective, it will immediately come before it. All right, let's take a look at sentence number 2. And again, let's always start with the verb. It's a good place to start. And we need to find nouns, because if there are adjectives that adverbs are modifying, then we need to find adjectives as well. Nick is a noun. Another noun, beehive, is also a noun. All right, now we do have an adverb that's modifying a verb. Remember I said when adverbs modify verbs, they can be anywhere in the sentence? Well, there is an adverb. Can you pick it out? Think of the questions, how and where, how often, to what extent. This one answers how, and it's modifying approached. Do you know what the adverb is? Cautiously. Adverb is the cautiously, and it's modifying the verb approached. Notice it's not close to it. It doesn't have to be. All right, so cautiously, approached how? Cautiously. Now, take a look at somewhat. To what extent cautiously? Somewhat cautiously. In this sentence, the adverb somewhat is adding emphasis to cautiously. The adverb somewhat is modifying cautiously. Now, we can take it out and still have a good sentence. Nick approached the beehive cautiously. But the author wanted to add a little bit more emphasis to that word, so they put in the adverb somewhat to modify cautiously. Nick approached the beehive somewhat cautiously. Now, again, notice the location. When the adverb is adding emphasis to another adverb, it comes right before it, the location. So adverbs, modifying an adjective or another adverb, adds emphasis. And it will come right before the adjective that it's adding emphasis to. It will come right before the adverb that it's adding emphasis to. And sometimes those are a little harder to pick out. But in your own writing, keep that in mind. When you write, you want to write naturally, but also you want to use adverbs. And if you want to emphasize some of those modifiers, adjectives or adverbs, then get another adverb to add the emphasis to it. And that again will help your writing be more interesting. Now, another aspect about adverbs, another characteristic about adverbs is most often an adverb will end in ly. Now, in a sentence, if you see a word that ends in ly, most often it is an adverb. So that's one way to help you spot adverbs in a sentence, and that is they end in ly. And I will say most. Most adverbs end in ly. However, there are some other parts of speech that also end in ly. But let's just take a look at this aspect. You know, you can take an adjective and you can make it into an adverb. You can take the adjective slow and you can make it into an adverb. Slowly. All right, brave. You can make it into an adverb, bravely. So you can form adverbs from other words. Another example is soft, softly. Nervous, nervously. Most adverbs end in ly. However, be careful There are also some adjectives that end in ly. And we can use them as an adjective or we can use them as an adverb. And one example is friendly. Friendly can also be an adjective. Friendly smile is one example. So be careful. Most adverbs end in ly, but there are some adjectives also. Again, to see how it's used in the sentence, if it's near a noun, if it's near a verb, the location of the word, you kind of have to dissect the sentence just to see what the word is and how it's used to determine if it's an adjective or an adverb. And as we take a look at these different characteristics, hopefully that'll help you when you identify them in the sentence. Now, there are some adverbs that do not end in ly, and they can be used as an adverb, and they can also be used as another part of speech. Take a look at your handout. And we're going to take a look at the 8th characteristic in your handout. It says there are many adverbs that do not end in ly. Not, N-O-T. That is always, always, always an adverb. Never is always, always an adverb, but it doesn't end in ly. 2, T-O-O, the double O, that's always an adverb, and that's an adverb that adds emphasis. Later is an adverb, and that doesn't end in ly. Nearby, seldom, and you remember we used seldom in one of our sentences or phrase examples. Then is an adverb. There, T-H-E-R-E. Here is an adverb, H-E-R-E. And then also the time ones. We have yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Now, you have to be careful with yesterday, today, and tomorrow because those adverbs can also be used as another part of speech. Can you guess what it is? It's one we've already had that names a noun. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow can also be used as nouns as well as adverbs. So when you're determining the part of speech of a word in a sentence, you have to see how it's used. And let's take a look at an example of yesterday, today, and tomorrow so that we can see how it's used. Example, today is the first day of spring. Let's take a look at the word today. I said that today can also be used as an adverb. In this example, today is used as a noun. It's being a noun, it's identifying. All right? Now, using it as an adverb. The boy began his paper route. Today. Began is the verb. Began when? Today. Today is an adverb. And it's modified began, answering the question when. So some words can be adverbs, and in these examples with today, it can also be used as a noun. So today, tomorrow, yesterday. Also the days of the week, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, they can be used as an adverb, just like the today, and they also can be used as a noun. So not all adverbs end in ly. And as I said earlier, there are some words that are always adverbs, and we went over the list of those as well. So be careful with not, never. Often they'll interrupt a verb phrase, and they are an adverb, they are not a verb. Another characteristic that I want to take a look at is, as I said earlier, in your writing techniques about maybe beginning a sentence with an adverb, using other adverbs to add emphasis to your adjectives. So let's take a look at just one sentence example and see how we can move the adverb around. And we talked about this in the other sentence about anxiously. But let's look at one more example. And the example is about a car. The car will need an overhaul soon. All right, let's find the verb. We always talked about finding the verb first, so let's do that. Is there an action verb or a linking verb? Well, the verb is need. There's a helping verb as well, and it's will. So we have a helping verb, we have a verb phrase. All right, now there is an adverb, and as I said before, not all adverbs end in ly. So again, think of the questions. How, when, where, how often, to what extent. The car will need an overhaul soon. What adverb is modifying the verb will need? Well, the adverb is soon. And what question does it answer? When. And it's modifying will need. Notice its location. It's at the end of the sentence. Notice what separates it. Overhaul is a noun. An is the article, and it's an adjective. Modify. Excuse me. Modifying overhaul. We can take the adverb soon, and we can move it around in the sentence just to add variety. For example, and let me use red for the adverb, soon. The car will need an overhaul. All right, we can begin the sentence with the adverb soon. Again, just to add variety, so you're not always beginning with an adjective or a noun. Is there another place that we could put soon? We could put soon right in the middle of the verb phrase. And again, we can move it and separate the verb phrase. So adverbs, when they are modifying a verb, even though we have moved its location, it still doesn't change what it's modifying. It's still modifying the verb phrase. All right, even though it's in the middle, it's still modifying the verb phrase. Regardless of its location, that doesn't change it. So adverbs can add variety to your writing by beginning the sentence with one. And that's when the adverb is modifying a verb. So let's just go over some of the characteristics of an adverb. The definition: an adverb is a word that modifies or describes a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. Adverbs answer questions about the words they modify. They answer how, when, where, how often, to what extent. Most adverbs end in ly, but not all of them. There are some words that are always adverbs. Words like not, never, ever. When adverbs modify a verb in the sentence, it can be located anywhere in the sentence. Just keep in mind the questions. When an adverb modifies an adjective, it will come right before that adjective, and it adds emphasis to that adjective. When an adverb modifies another adverb, again, it adds emphasis to the adverb, and it will come right before the adverb that it's adding emphasis to. Make your sentences beginning. Use the good writing technique by showing variety. Begin your sentence with an adverb, if possible. Adverbs add to the verb, to an adjective or to another adverb. Now, the next part of speech we're going to take a look at. It's a little part of speech, but it's a very important part of speech because it can also change the meaning of a sentence. And that part of speech is the preposition. Now, a preposition is a small word, but it's important in the sentence, and we'll take a look at the preposition. Prepositions. A preposition is a word, and it shows the relationship of its noun or pronoun to some other word in the sentence. So, preposition shows its relationship to some other word in the sentence. So, preposition shows its relationship of its noun or pronoun. I'm sorry, I missed a part of it. Shows the relationship, I forgot part of the definition. Shows its relationship, well, let's just start all over here. We'll try this again. Preposition shows the relationship of its noun or pronoun to some other word in the sentence. All right, now we've got it listed here. That's better. Preposition shows the relationship, or prepositions show the relationship of its noun or pronoun to some other word in the sentence. Now, let's take a look at what we mean by that. Number one, Bobby sat on the barrel. Let's find the verb. Finding the verb is really important in helping to understand some of the other parts of speech. So, the action is sat. Sat is the verb. All right? Bobby sat on the barrel. On is the preposition. All right? Now, at the end, following preposition, we have a noun, on the barrel. All right, so it's showing the relationship on barrel in relation to Bobby sitting. All right, so on is the preposition, on the barrel. Number two, Bobby lay beside the barrel. Action, verb, lay. Preposition is beside. All right, what's the noun it's showing the relationship with? The noun is barrel again. So, beside the barrel, Bobby lay. All right, it's showing the relationship of its noun or pronoun to the other words in the sentence. Number three, Bobby climbed into the barrel. Climbed is your verb, action verb. Into is the preposition. Bobby climbed into the barrel. And again, barrel is the noun. Preposition into the barrel. Number four, Bobby jumped over the barrel. We've got the verb jumped. Over is the preposition. And again, the noun is barrel. So, prepositions show the relationship of its noun or pronoun to some other words in the sentence. And notice how prepositions can change the meaning of a sentence. So, prepositions are a little word, but they're important. Now, when the word is a preposition, it works together with a noun or a pronoun. This is a unit that works together. This is a unit. It works together. This is a unit that works together. Prepositions begin a group of words called a prepositional phrase. And a prepositional phrase consists of a preposition and a noun or a pronoun. A preposition, a noun or a pronoun. A preposition and a noun or a pronoun. And they form a prepositional phrase. We're going to be taking a look at prepositional phrases later on because prepositional phrases are what we call a sentence part. But we're breaking it down and taking a look at the part of speech, the preposition. So prepositions are little words, and there are many prepositions. And like other words in our English language, some of these prepositions can be used as another part of speech. But when they are followed by a noun or a pronoun, these words are classed as or identified as a preposition. In your handout, let's take a look at the list of the most commonly used prepositions, and you'll see that the list is lengthy. Follow along as I read them, or even to help yourself and to help you identify them, read them with me. Aboard, about, above, across, after, against, along, amid, among, around, at, before, behind, below, beneath, beside, between, beyond, but, only when but is meaning except. If you can substitute except and it's followed by a noun or a pronoun, then but is used as a preposition. By, down, during, except, for, from, in, into, like, near, of, off, on, over, past, since, through, throughout, to, toward, under, underneath, until, unto, up, upon, with, within, without. Those are all the most commonly used prepositions. Now, they are only a preposition when they are followed by a noun or a pronoun. So let's go back to the list and let's just add some nouns or pronouns to these just so you see how they can form a prepositional phrase. Let's take a look at the first column. Aboard the ship. All right, aboard the ship is a prepositional phrase. It begins with aboard and it ends with the noun ship. Let's go down to across. Across the field. The deer ran across the field. Across is a preposition. It's beginning the phrase across the field. Let's go to the second column. Let's go to the word around. The children played around the pole. Around is a preposition. It begins the prepositional phrase around the pole. Let's go to the next column. Between the rows. During lunch hour. During is a preposition. Lunch hour is the noun. Let's go to the next column. Near the door. Near is a preposition. Door is the noun working with it. The next column. Past. We walked past the monument. Past the monument. Prepositional phrase beginning with the preposition past. And we could go on with other examples. But remember, it's a preposition when it's followed by a noun or a pronoun, and as a unit, it's working together as a prepositional phrase. Now, some prepositions can be compound. Remember, compound is two or more working together as one. There are some prepositions that are compound. And if you take a look at your handout, we have some examples of those where it's two or three words working together as one preposition. Let's take a look at it. According to God's word. according to is the preposition working together with God's word, forming a prepositional phrase. As for, as well as, because of, by way of, except for, in front of, in addition to, in spite of, instead of, on account of, out of, regardless of, with regard to. Again, 3 words, but it's all classed as one preposition. Together with. So we can have single word prepositions followed by a noun or a pronoun to form a prepositional phrase, or we can have the compound prepositions followed by a noun or pronoun and any modifiers, and together it forms a prepositional phrase. But these act as one preposition. Let's take a look at some examples on the board. In the sentences on the board, let's take a look and find our prepositions working together with a noun or pronoun to form a prepositional phrase. And remember, prepositions can be compound. Number 1, the group arrived late on account of the poor weather conditions. Now, keep in mind your list of prepositions and your list of compound prepositions. Let's find the prepositions. Follow as I read it again. The group arrived late on account of the poor weather conditions. On account of is our preposition. 3 words working together as one. Now, what's our prepositional phrase? What noun or pronoun is working with it? On account of the poor weather conditions. This is our noun, and it's working with the preposition on account of. Our whole prepositional phrase, on account of the poor weather conditions. So watch that. Sometimes those can be a little tricky when you're locating the prepositions. All right, the second sentence. In spite of circumstances, keep your eyes on the Lord. All right, let's find the prepositional phrase. Preposition, in spite of. Again, we've got 3 words working together as one preposition. Now, noun or pronoun? Circumstances. What's the prepositional phrase? In spite of circumstances. Now, we do have another prepositional phrase in this one. Now, the preposition's not compound, but do you know what the preposition is? If you need to, take a look at your handout. On is the preposition. What's its noun or pronoun? Proper noun, Lord. What is the prepositional phrase that the preposition begins? On the Lord. So we have a compound preposition beginning the prepositional phrase, and we have a single word preposition. All right, let's take a look at sentence number 3. The tourist almost walked past the entrance to the cave. All right, let's find any prepositional phrases, but we need to find the prepositions first. Preposition working with a noun or a pronoun. The first one is past. That's our preposition. All right, what noun or pronoun is working with it? Past the entrance. Past is the preposition that begins the prepositional phrase, past the entrance. Now we have another one. This time it's following it. The preposition is to. And what's the noun or pronoun working with it? Cave. Prepositional phrase, to the cave. So in that sentence example, you'll notice that one prepositional phrase will follow another prepositional phrase. So we have 2 in number 3. So a preposition. Prepositions show the relationship of its noun or pronoun to some other word in the sentence. Prepositions can be single words, as on, as to, as past, or they can be more than one, two or more, on account of, in spite of. Let's take a look at some scripture verses as well and find some prepositional phrases. Let's go to the book of Psalms. And let's turn to Psalms chapter 120. And we're going to take a look at verses 1 and 2. In Psalm chapter 120, we're going to look at verses 1 and 2. And again, we're finding prepositions that begin prepositional phrases. To be a preposition, it needs to be followed by a noun or pronoun, and as a unit, it works together. All right, Psalm chapter 120, and let's look at verse 1. In my distress, I cried unto the Lord, and he heard me. Preposition, in. Prepositional phrase, in my distress. Distress is the noun that's working with the preposition in my distress. The next preposition, unto. Unto the Lord is the prepositional phrase. Unto is the preposition that begins the phrase, and Lord is the noun or pronoun working with it. Verse 2. Deliver my soul, O Lord, from lying lips and from a deceitful tongue. We have two prepositional phrases in verse 2. Can you pick them out? What's the preposition? The preposition is from. The prepositional phrase, from lying lips. The second one, from again. From a deceitful tongue. Lips is the noun, tongue is the noun. Let's take a look at Psalm chapter 121. We'll just continue on. And let's take a look again at verses 1 and 2. Psalm 121, verse 1. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. Preposition, unto the hills. Prepositional phrase, unto the hills. Next one, from whence. From is the preposition, from whence. Verse 2, my help cometh from the Lord, which made heaven and earth. And there's one prepositional phrase and one preposition. Number 2 is from the Lord. And let's take a look at Psalm 123. And let's take a look at verse 1. Psalm 123, verse 1. Unto thee lift I up mine eyes, O thou that dwellest in the heavens. Preposition, unto. Prepositional phrase, unto thee. Next prepositional phrase, in the heavens. In is the preposition. So we could look at many other verses and pick out prepositional phrases. Remember, prepositions begin a prepositional phrase. And as I said before, some prepositions can also be used as another part of speech. Let's take a look at an example. On the board, number 4, we saw the geese. If you notice in number 3, past the entrance, past was used as a preposition. But in sentence number 4, past is not used as a preposition. How do I know that? It's not followed by a noun or a pronoun to form a phrase. We saw the geese swim past. We saw the geese swim where? Past. Well, what part of speech answers where? It's an adverb. And it's modifying the verb swim. So be careful. For it to be a preposition, it needs to be followed by a noun or a pronoun and working together as a unit to form a prepositional phrase. Preposition will be followed by a noun or a pronoun for it to be a preposition. So you have to analyze a sentence and look at it carefully and just look at the words and see how they're used to be able to identify them. Like adverbs, we can also begin a sentence with a prepositional phrase. And you'll notice that the sentences on the chalkboard, there's one that has done that, and that's number 2. Beginning a sentence with a prepositional phrase can also make your writing interesting. In spite of circumstances, keep your eyes on the Lord. Let's see. We could even rearrange number 1. We can begin it with a prepositional phrase. On account of the poor weather conditions, the group arrived late. And again, that adds variety. In your writing, in your paragraph, in your longer composition writings, you want to add variety. You don't always want to begin with an adjective and a noun. The group, the tourist. If you can, begin with an adverb, or if you can, begin with a prepositional phrase. It just makes your writing more interesting, rather than having the same format of always beginning with a noun. So in lesson 3, we covered our adverbs and we covered our prepositions. An adverb is a word that modifies a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. It answers questions: how, when, where, why, to what extent, how often. A preposition is a word that shows a relationship of its noun or pronoun to some other word in a sentence, and prepositions form a prepositional phrase. And prepositional phrases can make your writing interesting if you can place them at the beginning of the sentence, just like with adverbs.